afternoon, everybody. Welcome to High Heat. Good to have you with us on this Wednesday. Yes, indeed, the 18th day of January 2023. Talking about what's going on as far as the world of sports is concerned. Baseball here today. Bicky with Lana, of course, momentarily with Dan Kumiati and John McVeigh, who is going to produce today. We'll have a lot of good guests for you, including Steve Phillips shortly. Jerry DePoto today, too, as you just heard. All right, we've been on a little series now before we get to the Hall of Fame. Middle of next week. So we did the teams from that are really in big trouble. I don't see any hope for 2023. We did that yesterday, the 6 of them. Today we're going to do it from a standpoint of teams that are kind of in no man's land. They're not desolate like the A's, but I mean, it's a scenario where, you know, still you'll wonder where in fact they are, where the direction of the ball club is going, and what can you expect in 2023 and maybe even beyond. Now, there are two teams here that when we did this on December 22nd, when we first put this list together and told everybody that we would do some brushbacks in the middle of January on these clubs, that a few things have changed. So I'll do the two of them first. And those are the middle two, the Red Sox and the Twins. Boston, you know, when we put this together on December 22nd, they were basically about a week away from beyond losing Bogarts to San Diego. And the Red Sox are still in a little bit of a crosshair scenario there in the American League East. Tough division, lots of good teams. But they did get Devers signed, so they know. And that was a good contract for the Red Sox because the contract's up when he's 37 years of age, not when he's 40. And he's only 26 now. So they made a good deal there. And he's, he's a backbone player. He's going to be there forever. He's a foundational guy. So they're in good shape. I like what they did with their bullpen. No issues there, of course, with both Chris Martin and with Jansen. And their bullpen last year was underratedly bad. And it was horrendous. And they made a big improvement. But still the Red Sox, now with the Story injury too, the Red Sox are kind of, where are they going? At least for next year. The Yankees are obviously Judge back, Rondon, who can add to their rotation. The Blue Jays are very, very good. Tampa's going to be competitive. And the Orioles are much improved. So where are the Red Sox in this equation? Their starting pitching is, there with a shoestring. You don't know about Sale, so that's a major problem. Yes, bullpen better, but starting rotation I'm not in love with. They have no Story, so their middle infield is spotty. They got a kid from Japan nobody really knows that much about. Verdugo's a good player, but still, he's not a great player. And they lose J.D. Martinez. And they got Devers. This team could be very shaky, and it's kind of deciding what it wants to do in the immediate future. So the Red Sox, despite a good signing with Devers, and that was a move they had to make, and they did a good job with it, still they're in no man's land. Minnesota, they had Correa fall in their lap. I hesitate to put them in this category because of the idea that the American League Central is certainly a lot easier than the American League East to navigate. And Minnesota will have Maeda back to help their rotation. They brought Vasquez in to help them behind the plate. And Correa they have ready to go. They hope for a full season. Buxton maybe play more than 92 games. So you can make an argument that the Twins will be much improved. But their bullpen is still horrendous. They still have a lot of three starters who are in their rotation. There's no real big ace there. I'm not even sure if you can categorize Joe Ryan as a second starter on a big team. So Minnesota still has question marks as far as their rotation goes, and their offense is still what it is. So although their division is very capable, they can do a nice job in this American League Central. The Guardians, they don't spend any money either. White Sox, they lost Abreu, but they brought back, of course, Benintendi. So the division is gettable. And, they did bring Correa back at a good price for their team, and they're trying to win, so we like that. But, are you really convinced that Minnesota is significantly better this year than they were a year ago? I'm not sure if you can make that comment. And obviously, they're really a cut below some of the better teams in the American League. Houston, the Yankees, we'll hear from them later. So those are the two teams that, there's been a few changes since this first list came aboard, 3 weeks ago. Now, the other teams, I do think they're in no man's land. We're staying in the American League Central with Detroit. Detroit's kind of an in-between team. They got some older players. The younger players have not developed as quickly as they can. They do have some young pitching, so we shall see. And the Tigers down the road will have a lot of money to work on, but the Tigers are a ball club right now that you can't get too crazy about as far as the American League Central is concerned. Cabrera's last year, I understand that. We like the manager. I get that new front office leadership. That's probably, the new direction that might help the team. But are the Tigers going to win this year? Really? you're going to sit there at the end of the day and you're going to put the Tigers there as a team that you like in the American League Central. I know 2 years ago they went 68-61 off for a horrendous start, and they over 129 games. They were over 500, and in this American League Central that plays, and they'd have a chance. But they were so bad last year, never a factor in any kind of race. I got to see something before I think that the Tigers are out of a scenario where they're not terrible. They're not, again, Oakland, but still, the Tigers got a chance to win in 23. Division makes it plausible, but I got to see it. So they're team number 3. The other two teams, listen, Milwaukee runs a good ball club. They run a good ship. They got a very good manager. Front office is good. But, and they have, at the top of the rotation, Woodruff, Burns, Peralta. They got the makings of an excellent staff. But, the Brewers are a team that still can't hit. Yelich has become a singles hitter with that back issue. Obviously, the Cubs and Cardinals are much improved. Cubs are better. Cardinals brought, obviously, Contreras in. Cardinals are a pretty good team, too. They won 93 last year. Where are the Brewers? I know they're going to rely on their starting pitching. They had a lot of guys out last year, so they were not necessarily healthy all the way through that rotation on a start-by-start basis. They feel guys like Lauer and Ashby are better back-of-the-end guys than you think. But they traded Hader. There's still maybe something going on as far as that clubhouse is concerned. They lost Wong out to Seattle. I don't know where they are necessarily, the Brewers. Listen, it's a team that you have to respect because of what they do every year. They're sort of like the Tampa team of the National League. They get the most out of a little, but their payroll is what it is. St. Louis really ran away and hid. Milwaukee's counting on a lot of return to health with their starters. We shall see with the Brewers. They're not ready to win a championship. I kind of put them in that no wins category, and I'm going to put San Francisco there too. Now, the Giants have the advantage that Milwaukee doesn't have because the Giants have a huge payroll. And the Giants can spend money, and they want to spend money. They got obviously turned down by Judge. The Correa thing didn't work out because of that physical. But you know that San Francisco is going to eventually bring in a big player there and make them the cornerstone of the franchise. That big player's not there this year, though. And the Giants, they sort of picked around the outside. Here's Mitch Haniger. Okay. Here's Ross Stripling. Okay. That's what the San Francisco team did. They let Rondon leave. It wasn't good enough for them, but the Yankees thought he was worth 162. So their rotation takes a huge hit. Rondon pitched well last year. They're going to fill it in with the Alex Cobbs of the world. I got to see that. They did not get the big guy to build their offense around in Judge or Correa. So those two are gone. Belt's out. What are the Giants? They're in a brutal division there, of course, with L.A. and San Diego. Their ballpark, they were 13th in baseball last year in attendance, which they may have been 13th in the National League, but their attendance is not nearly as good as what it was. In that town, they're fickle. If you don't win, the ballpark's romance is gone. That ballpark's been up for 20 years. They're not going to run to the ballpark, running to go see the Giants because of the ballpark. They've all seen the ballpark. Now it's the team. And the Giant team right now is just not that good. That's just all there is to it. There's nothing else you can say. If everything broke right like it did 2 years ago, they can win 85, 88 games. But, 2 years ago was an aberration. There's no way they should have won 107, and they did. They didn't have a whole hell of a lot to show for it. At the end of the day, they got knocked out in the first round. Last year, they tried the same recipe. That didn't work. You're not going to win those many games with a bunch of platoon players 2 years in a row. It doesn't happen. And it didn't. Giants are bad. They try to rectify it here in the offseason, and they teased and did not deliver. So from that standpoint, San Francisco, they are the definition of no man's land. And in a division where the Dodgers are the Dodgers, San Diego does nothing but spend money, and Arizona's on the come. So the Giants have got some issues here as we begin and think about spring training. Giants and Milwaukee are good franchises, sort of lost their way right now. They need a lot of things to go right in 2023. The Tigers are sort of in between. You have faith in the ownership that they will spend money when they get good. But where are the Tigers right now? Their big minor leaguers haven't quite hit yet, so we keep an eye on them. And the Red Sox and Twins. Red Sox more of a problem than the Twins are, but still those teams right now, you can't go into 2023 thinking that you got two playoff teams. That is where we are as we begin the day. Nice to have you with us on this Wednesday. Alana is part of the family, too, and she says, hello, Miss Rizzo. How are you? Take it away.
I'm great, Chris. Thanks so much. I'm not ready to write off the Boston Red Sox just yet. I think they're quietly putting together something that can be competitive. Maybe not a World Series team in 2023, but they can be competitive. I think the biggest thing, of course, was locking up Rafael Devers for a long-term contract. You needed to do that, especially since Xander Bogaerts is now in San Diego. One thing I like about the Red Sox team is maybe not in 2023, but they have yet to have a fully healthy Trevor Story. We know that he's going to have that surgery. And he's going to possibly miss a significant time of 2023. We don't know if he's going to be back in 2023. But when he does come back healthy, the Red Sox are going to have one hell of a player. And yet, fans haven't seen a 100% Trevor healthy Story that is going to live up to the contract that he received. However, I am not willing to write them off just yet. When you think about the Minnesota Twins with Carlos Correa, a superstar offensive player does not a team make. The thing about teams that go to championships, it's all predicated on good frontline starting pitching, a very good bullpen, and an offense that can hit consistently. You cannot have a team be built around just one offensive player like you can do in the NBA when you have these super teams led by whoever LeBron James wants to play around him, or in the NFL when you have a very, very good quarterback that can lead a team to a championship situation. What I do like about the Twins is that they do have Correa and they have a building block to build on. However, Carlos Correa is not the answer. Just look at what the Tigers did last year when they signed Javier Baez, hoping that Javi Baez was going to be this offensive savior for the Detroit Tigers, and that was not at all what had happened. In fact, he hit .238, 17 home runs, only 67 RBIs, and 147 strikeouts in 144 games for the Tigers. And he had defensive woes as well. So that's a tough pill to swallow when you think Javi Baez is going to be one of your biggest offensive answers. Of all the teams that you were talking about in terms of the 5 teams in no man's land, the one team that disappoints me, I think, the most is the Milwaukee Brewers. The reason that I say that is because they have consistently been a successful team in a small market atmosphere. I've loved what Mark Antanasio, the ownership group, the front office, Craig Counsell has done with the Milwaukee Brewers. Up until last year, they were a perennial team in terms of the postseason. They had gone to the playoffs 4 straight years. The furthest they had gone was in 2018 up against the Los Angeles Dodgers when they lost in 7 games. I want to say it was in the division series in that year. But what bothers me about what the Brewers are doing this year is the fact that I feel like they're going away from that building block. They've let some really good guys go. Hunter Renfroe traded to the Angels. Colton Wong traded to the Mariners. The Mariners are going to be very good this year, by the way. Andrew McCutchen was lost to free agency. Now they do have the pitching. I understand that, but I don't feel like they are consistently doing now what they were doing when they were perennial, at least postseason participants. That's the team that kind of bothers me the most. So the game is predicated on pitching and defense, and that one, if the offensive guys can hit consistently, that's what's going to get you there. I think that's what these teams are lacking.
Yeah, the Brewers, you're right. They did leave a couple guys, and Renfroe hit 29 home runs for him. Good job out of Atlanta. We will talk to Steve Phillips. He'll join us next on this Wednesday version of